Today I'm going to talk about why I went vegan and a little about why I think other people should go vegan as well. So stay tuned to find out precisely why. So I've been vegan for over 8 years now, and I've been on the YouTube platform talking about veganism for approximately 7 years. I've done a video in the past about why I went vegan, so I thought it would be time for a refresher. I've done videos on reasons why I'm still vegan, and I will link those down below. But I do sometimes, especially in my live streams, have people come on over and ask, what compelled me to go vegan in the first place. So if it's of interest of you to know why I did, then let's go through it. So I've always had a connection with animals. Definitely, I would say, especially when I was younger, I just felt like I understood them and they understood me in a way that I couldn't really explain, and kind of felt in some ways better than other human connections. I don't know, it's just something about their kind of brutal honesty. Other animals don't seem to have as much of an ability to, be dishonest or lie or, kind of hide their feelings quite as much as humans do. Obviously there's variations in that, animals will hide their pain and other things like that. But when I was younger, for me, it just looked like, well, okay, well, if a dog didn't like me, they'd stay away from me. If a rabbit didn't like me, they'd run away. But if they liked me, they'd come up and immediately be like, oh, I like you, and, give me a hug. And I just really liked that. I thought there was no kind of complication. So yeah, I found that very refreshing and enjoyed that. So definitely I had that kind of connection. I really liked nature, I really liked, documentaries on animals. I would read books. I had those National Geographics and everything of all the animals. I remember the artwork of the animals quite vividly. I wouldn't say it was like my main identifier, though I was one of those people when I was like really young who had animal lover kind of as part of things, even while I was, consuming animals and their secretions. And I didn't really know too much about it. Like when I was with my friend, I'd go around her house when I was a kid and we'd watch videos on things like, chimeras. Like we found a video on hard crush, which is animal crushing. I knew about that from a very young age and I thought that was disgusting. Like things like bear baiting or the bear biling, taking the bile from the abdomens of moon bears. I knew about that when I was really young. And yeah, I just thought, oh my God, the things that are done to animals are so cruel. I remember learning about bullfighting and I just thought, I can't believe someone would do that to an animal. But I didn't really think anything of, the fact that I was also someone who would eat any animal. I didn't care. Like I probably wouldn't have eaten a dog. But yeah, when I was little, I would eat organ flesh quite happily. Like one of my favorite things to eat was like heart rice. I'd eat animal tongues. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, well, look, we have to eat them. It's kind of ridiculous what you're going to eat if you don't, not really thinking it through, which is why, I get kind of frustrated when other people do that and kind of deploy these things like, what do you eat? What can you eat? I know they're not really thinking it through, because if you took a moment to think, you'd realize just how many of the foods that you eat that would be plant-based if either you just didn't include something else or you took one ingredient out of it. Then for my media project, I had to do a music video for a local punk band, and their song was called Graves. And I asked them what it was about, and they said it was about factory farming. And so I thought, oh, well, I need some like mise en scène, appropriate footage to kind of go with this video before I realised I couldn't do that. So I was looking up factory farming, and then I remember the first video I saw was the dairy industry, and then it clicked for me. I was like, oh my God, the horrible things we do to animals, it's not like a phenomenon elsewhere. It's literally on my doorstep, and oh my God, I'm paying for this, like dairy, because it kind of hit me. I was like, well, how come these guys are singing about factory farming? Because I succinctly remember going with these punks to McDonald's. So I was like, and they were eating animals. So I thought, God, none of these guys are like vegetarian bar one. And then I looked at the dairy industry first, and I was like, well, hang on, if you're eating dairy, you're paying for this as well. So if anything, you've got to be vegan. And I knew one other vegan in the school at the time. And yeah, I just thought, okay, well, on my 18th birthday, which wasn't far away from then, I will move with my vegan friend and I will learn how to be vegan. So yeah, I did that. So it was like I had my final day of eating things that I thought I wouldn't be able to ever eat again, which was a complete waste because I can eat these things still. So I feel bad about that. But yeah, I had like, chickens, burger, nuggets, all these things that I thought I'd never be able to have ever again. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. Like, I'm just gonna have to eat like pasta and cucumbers. And that's what I was eating on the first couple of days, like the day after I had that final meal. And that was the end of it. It just kind of switched over. I wouldn't say that I fully made the connection properly until I understood the arguments. Like, I don't think, like, I knew it was wrong. That's why I just stopped. Like, when you're doing something, you don't really realize it's wrong and then you do it. It's like, oh, there you go. Like, can't do that anymore. But then, there were so many people saying, oh, that's ridiculous, like, you're gonna die. It's saying all these things that just ended up not being true, that it kind of got in my head and I was like, am I doing something kind of weird here? So it was really helpful to me to like learn the argumentation, learn the science behind everything in order to understand that just because all these people are saying this doesn't mean it's true. Like, let's have a look at the scientific data, let's look at the hierarchy of evidence and establish what's actually going on here, and let's like logically test everything. That wasn't really something that I was privy to until about a few years ago. I think I really got on board and understood, that there are too many compelling arguments to actually go vegan. And I do wish I had that like at an earlier age, because then I would have, made that change earlier. But yeah, you can't really batter yourself over the head about things that you didn't know at the time. And that's what makes it somewhat difficult, obviously, because, we can't help but insert our experience into what other people do. Like for me, I recognized it was wrong and then, won't do that again. But then for other people, that's not necessarily kind of how their mind works. Now, I think that would be better, definitely, because the way I see it is that if they were the victim, they'd want someone to think the way that I'm thinking rather than another way. So for me, it's just kind of clear, but I do understand that not all minds work in this way. So I do try to take the way that I did it out of the equation and just kind of consider how other people will do things, because ultimately, interesting people no longer partaking in something. So I have to kind of appeal to where they're at. But that is why, it's kind of difficult when people say baby steps, or when people just keep saying that it's not actually that wrong, even though they've literally seen the footage, or they've seen animals, or they've killed animals. It's just like, come on now. And when I saw it, like for me, it was just kind of like, there is no, obviously I didn't know precisely these words. I didn't know how to articulate it. But for me, there was no relevant moral difference between humans and other animals that would justify their exploitation and killing. But at the time I was just like, well, we're animals, and like I wouldn't want to be killed like that. I wouldn't want to be killed. I just want to live my life and be left alone. So why the hell would I pay for someone to do that to somebody else? That doesn't make any sense. So that was kind of the viewpoint. And yeah, that's why I just kind of want to see that for other people, because they wouldn't want this for themselves. So I don't know why they pay for it for others. It doesn't really make very much sense to me. It would be interesting to get in that mindset for a while. I'm trying to think of times where maybe I did think that way, but maybe when I was a kid, I did think that way, because you're trying to work out what you even believe in the first place. When you're being raised, you're just kind of raised into these social norms and what is right or wrong, because someone tells you, and you don't really challenge that. So maybe that's kind of trying to think of my brain when I was little, which is a really hard thing to do. You know how like you try and imagine yourself being shorter, but you can't, because in your brain you've just kind of always been the same height, and then one day you're like 5'4". Yeah, for me it was pretty simple, and I could see the incentive of like, because actually like animals, why I might be somebody who is more inclined to not do things that aren't in their best interest. But at the same time, I'm not like a massive animal lover. Like I know people who probably care about animals so much more than I do, I really like want them all around them all the time, who aren't vegan. And I really don't think you have to care about someone before you pay someone else to stab them, like, oh, I actually care about them, so can you hold off on the stabbing? I think that pretty much sums it up. I hope that was not too boring. But yeah, that's how I went about it. That was just the thing that clicked for me. I think, you know, seeing all these horrible things from an early age and kind of realizing, oh, these horrible things happen, that's unfair. Like, I can't really remember like very much of my childhood, to be fair, because I swear I'd seen Earthlings, or some snippets of it, when I was much younger than I thought I did. I really can't remember, but this is all I can recollect of the vegan experience when I was younger, or what like led to that. I'd say a really good piece of information when you're just becoming vegan is 101 Reasons to Go Vegan. I really did appreciate that speech. I think that's something that doesn't get cited very often, but I think it's just really powerful. There are so many resources out there now that are just really helpful, and it's good that those resources exist, because now it's kind of easier, more now than ever, to just go vegan. Back when I was vegan, like even just like 8 years ago, which isn't really that long in the scheme of things, like the only things available were like Linda McCartney's. You had to go to like Holland and Barrett to go get like something vegan. There was none of this like bounds of vegan options that there are today. So, you know, when people say that they can't eat anything, I'm just like, oh my God, like you have no idea. And then the people who went vegan before me had even less selection to choose from. I think my story kind of hinders me in a way, because then I have to kind of push that aside, because it was like, oh, for me, it was just like, well, that's wrong. So now I have to kind of find a way to not be wrong. Like, and that was the workaround. And, you know, it's only in like recent times that I've realized that people don't value morality as highly as I thought they did. I think for a lot of people, social norm is something that they could put even higher than morality itself, which is difficult to contend with, because then you have to just hope that the social norm is morally sound. Otherwise, yeah, people will end up doing it. And you see this often, because people go, oh, it's just normalized. This is why I eat a chicken but not a dog. You know, this is why I think people can stab pigs but they can't stab cats. No, because it's normalized though. So it's like, oh God. But yeah, I am trying to be increasingly more understanding of the position of where other people are coming from, but it is very difficult when, you know, I've seen these animals. Like, I'm working on a project now of animals I've seen vigils draw a load of the animals who were, you know, present or forced into these conditions, forced to be sold off to be used and exploited and eventually killed. But yeah, for me it just kind of clicked, and I know for a lot of people it does do that. For other people it's going to be a longer process, but ultimately I think a lot of vegans will agree that as soon as you actually make the connection, your big regret is that you didn't do it sooner, and I am definitely one of those people. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little story time. Please let me know what caused you to go vegan down below. There'll probably be some common themes and everything that people cite. But thank you so much for watching. I do hope you're well. And until next time, lads, I will see you soon.